Boom. And it's a big one, Jerry. Nick Townsend, tight end out of Springs, Decaney High School, blue chip prospect, in my opinion, 6'3", 235 pounds or so. A big pickup for the Longhorns. What are your thoughts on Nick Townsend?
Love the pickup. One of the best players in the country. Even though he's ranked in the top 100 in our industry, I think he's way undervalued, underrated. Right now, I think he's a top 50 level prospect in the country. I think he could be a high draft pick as a tight end in the NFL. Heck, if he decided a year from now he just wanted to be an edge player, outside linebacker, I think he'd be a high NFL draft pick there too. Great pickup for Texas. One of the very best football players in the state of Texas. Bobby, I know you're going to read his stats in a second, but if there's guys that are as productive as Nick Townsend playing the positions he does in the state of Texas and around the country, I'd like to find him because he does a little bit of everything for Decaney. But he is a guy that legitimately, to me, is a top 50 level prospect in the country as a tight end prospect because he can run, he can catch the football, he's physical, he can make people miss after the catch. Look at this here. I mean, that's against Willis High School now. Willis High School has 5'6" D1 guys, and he ran away from him. There's D1 players in that secondary at Willis. He ran away from him. There you see against Katy High School. I believe that's against Katy. But he's a physical football player. Catches the ball with his hands, can make somebody miss, can run through a tackle, can run away from people, can make the extra move to maximize and score the ball. I mean, this guy is one of the top 2 or 3 tight end prospects in the country, and he is a perfect fit in the Steve Sarkisian offense, Bobby, because what have we talked about with Jatavion Sanders before? Great pass catcher, good athlete, not great athlete. Amari Niblack, great athlete, tremendous pass catcher was what we'll see at Texas this year. But you know what neither one of those guys were? Super physical, point of attack players in the run game. And when the defensive highlights pop on this guy and he's knocking people's helmets off, here it is. Texas fans are going to know this guy's going to be a complete tight end.
I think it's great. You hit on 2 topics I want to bring up. Let's talk about his stats because you mentioned those early on. Last year as a junior, 18 catches. You say, oh, well, that's not much for a tight end, right? 18 catches for 431 yards. That's 24 yards a pop, 7 touchdowns. So once out of every 3 times, or actually a little bit more than once out of every 3 times, he's scoring a touchdown when he catches it. 2 rushing touchdowns. He actually plays a little wildcat quarterback. How many tight ends do you get asked to play wildcat quarterback? But then to your point about physicality, Jerry, his defensive stats are pretty really strong. 76 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries, 1 forced fumble, an all-around player. And look, we talked about this. We think he's one of the top 10 players in the state. No matter where he's ranked, he's still ranked among the top 100 players in the country. You and I just like him that so much so that we think he's better. And you made the comparison somewhat to Jatavion Sanders. Well, Jatavion Sanders was a 5-star coming out of high school. Now he didn't end up necessarily a 5-star pick because he wasn't a first-round pick out of college. He did end up getting drafted, obviously, and had a really good career at the University of Texas. But I think Nick Townsend has more ability, more athleticism, faster, stronger, all of the above than Jatavion Sanders. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, and he does it all with a towel that's 3 feet long. Look at his highlights. That's kind of amazing in itself. I mean, it's like he's carrying an extra person around there too. But yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look, that's where recruiting rankings are kind of funny at times because I do think Nick Townsend's a better football player than Jatavion Sanders. And that's not a knock on an NFL football player that had a really good career at Texas. But Nick Townsend ran 10.92, fully automatic time, 100 meters in his district meet at 226 pounds. That's extremely rare. And then you see how physical and productive he is on defense. I mean, he's legitimately a top 50 guy in the country on either side of the ball. But then I think the other thing is he's playing 6A football in the run of the better districts in Houston, Spring, Westfield, and that district. They play really strong people, strong competition. There you see him at Wildcat quarterback. I mean, look, he has a refuse to go down mentality too about him. So it's one thing to be fast. It's another thing to be physical and fast and have a refuse to go down mentality. That guy attacks every rep on both sides of the ball like he wants to own the play. He wants to own the play. So it's one thing to be the athlete he is. It's another thing to have the mentality that I want to own this play. And I think this guy should be a borderline 5-star prospect.
You look at him, he's got the speed. He's run a 10.9 100-meter, multiple sport athlete as well. Gerry, you look at the two tight ends Texas now has, and Nick Townsend and Emery Winston. Jeff Banks has gone after a certain type. Last year, they picked up Jordan Washington, who looked extraordinarily good in the spring. Jordan's more of a prototypical size tight end, long arms, able to play inline and also flex out. Now with these two, Nick Townsend and Emery Winston, they may be able to do a little bit of that, but they're a little bit of that H-back look too. So they're going to be pass catchers maybe first, in my opinion. Would you agree with what they're doing this year at tight end versus last year?
Yeah, I would agree totally. And the other thing I would say is, like you said, Emery Winston, maybe more in that H-back role. But I want to say this, Jordan Washington and Nick Townsend back-to-back in classes, that's tremendous tight end recruiting. And that's not a slide on Emery Winston, really good player as well. But those two guys from a size athleticism standpoint, that's high-end stuff by Jeff Banks in the University of Texas. I want to say the other thing about Nick Townsend. When you watch the video, how many positions did he line up at? He was a lead blocker, okay, and a two-back. He was a wildcat quarterback, tight end, split him out wide, inside linebacker, off the edge. You know what you can only do that if the coaches feel like they can put it a lot on your plate and you actually can process it and handle it. So football instincts is another thing Nick Townsend has.
You know what else he does? He also helps the national recruiting ranking of the Longhorns continue to go up a little bit here. A lot of people were worried early in the month of July, including ourselves, and we still are. We still have some certain concerns at certain positions, but now it's starting to mature and transpire what we thought would happen pretty much all along, at least at some spots. Tight end included Nick Townsend, just a big-time commitment, one of the very best in this class for the Longhorns, no doubt about it. All right, Gerry, you and I are going to give way to Rod Babers here. Rod has a one-person breakdown of our Nick Townsend, the latest Longhorn commitment. But before we do that, I've got one last thing to say to you, Nick Townsend. Hook 'em.
Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here to give you my personal evaluation of Nick Townsend, the athlete, superior athlete out of Houston. Man, this is a young man that probably could play 3-4 different positions at the division, at the Power 5 level, pretty much. I mean, he could play linebacker, I think edge rusher. He got a chance to play edge rusher. He could play, tight end at the next level. He's that kind of athlete. And you could tell whether, watching him play tight end, they move him all around. They move him out to wide receiver. They put him at running back. He played some wildcat quarterback. As the young people would say, he got that dog in him. And that's what I see when I see this. I see Nick Townsend film. He's got that dog in him. He's got a guy that must have told coach, man, put me anywhere. It don't matter. Put me anywhere. I'm going to ball out. And that's exactly what he does. It's fun to watch Nick Townsend film. I mean, really fun. 6'4", 225. Man, you can stack some more weight on him. And speed, exceptional speed for a player of his size. You'll see him several times just run away from defenders at that size. I mean, it's unbelievable. So that's why superior athleticism comes to mind with this young man. He's a game changer at tight end. You hear me always say? I always say that some guys move the chain, some guys change the game. A game changer at tight end. A chance to be a 5-tool tight end, one that can beat man-to-man coverage, that can be a vertical threat down the seam. You can run the tight end screens with him. Sark loves the tight end screens. Ran several tight end screens in the spring game alone. He loves the tight end screen. This young man on a tight end screen would be lethal. He also I think he could be a physical blocker. He already played linebacker, so he's used to the physicality. That won't be unfamiliar with him. But also think, he's a guy that you see him at times. I mean, he's more than just a willing blocker. I think because of his natural kind of athleticism overall, I don't think blocking will be a tough transition for him, teaching him to be an elite blocker. I think it's all about the technique and the fundamentals, but he's got all the raw materials. Also, what I love about him, and Sark talks about this too, and he talks about tight end being the second most important position in his offense behind quarterback. He said that several times. And I think what he's talking about is the the fusion. The tight end position essentially is the fusion of the spread philosophy and the power ideology, and he wants both. And the tight end position allows you to fuse those two things together seamlessly, play to play and during the play, to actually go from a spread formation, right, with JT Sanders out in the slot or JT Sanders flex, to be able to move him back into the backfield as an H-back or put him in line as a tight end and then become a power set simply by shifting and moving around that tight end. And JT Sanders moved around at a top 10 rate of any Power 5 tight end. So Sark moves that got around a lot. This young man would be ideal moving around the formation, the athleticism, trying to hunt mismatches, because you'll find in really any linebacker matched up on this young man's a mismatch, and half the damn safeties that could be matched up on would be a mismatch as well. So you can put him in the slot, you can put him out wide, you can put him at fullback, put him at H-back, put him at inline tight end, and I think either place he would work and he could win there. So you talk about a guy truly like JT Sanders who has the ceiling to be a 5-tool tight end. And in Sark's offense, I think he's become now a little bit enamored with that athleticism at tight end. I think JT Sanders is one of the more athletic tight ends that he's ever had. I think Nick Townsend would also be probably even more athletic, just looking at his breakaway speed and his ability to be such a vertical threat. He also has really strong hands, so contested catches. He can win those contested catches. He's really comfortable making those 50-50 balls, turning those into 70-30 balls because of his just overall ability, catch radius, and body control. So, I mean, this young man is an elite athlete. And like I said, I think he can play 3 or 4 different positions, but it projects as a tight end, he would be a 5-tool tight end at the next level, a game-changing one. There's no doubt about it. So that's my personal evaluation of Nick Townsend, the tight end or athlete out of Houston, Texas.